Well, good morning, Jonathan. We thank you that this is going to be part of the Parkview Presbyterian Church Legacy Project. And so we're going to just put some data down. This is Monday, August the 8th, 2022.
How time flies.
Right. And we're meeting at my son's house, Greg Umeda's place at 9 Sage River Circle, Sacramento, California. And what time is it? I'm not sure. It's probably
10:40.
10:40, okay. And the interviewer is Jonathan Sakakibara.
Yes. Well, it's a pleasure to be with you here today, Christine. And the first thing I want to ask you is, over the many, many years that you've spent at Parkview, how is it that you came to Parkview to be a part of the membership there in the first place?
Well, interestingly, let me give you a little background about myself. My mom and dad, Bunzo and Harue Aso, are founding members and very active in the Tendikyo Sacramento Church. And actually, I found out that they had studied enough that they could become ministers on their own. But we used to go to their monthly services. But, it was primarily in Japanese. Meanwhile, after we returned from incarceration in 1945, I became aware that, and I'm still trying to find someone who could validate, but I understand that Parkview became a sort of a gathering place for young adults. Many, many people met there. My sisters, Lillian Kashiwagi, Aso Kashiwagi, and Rose Aso Hironaka were members of that. And I know that Lillian met her future husband, Bob Kashiwagi, in this group, as well as many other members of the Parkview Church. And so having known that background, I would say that it was in my teen years that I finally said, I'm going to start going to Parkview. And I can't even pinpoint, but I'm going to say it would be early high school years. And at that time, there was a significant number of young people. I remember Carol Owe. She was pretty much my age. And there were a bunch of other young women, particularly the Kubota sisters and the Owes and the, number, but they were younger, and Wade, But one of the things that was very, I don't want to say popular, but what was going on was there was a real strong evangelical movement going on. And Parkview had a number of evangelical services at Parkview. And one of the persons that comes to mind is Reverend Paul Nagano. I remember he came and it was like, standing up there and challenging us to, accept Christ and so forth. And I remember doing that. And in addition to that, there were other things that happened in terms of just, getting together with other Christians. They had a group called the Young People's Christian Conference, and they would do quarterly or something like that, regional meetings, weekend meetings. I met people in Stockton, San Mateo, that Bay Area, and Sacramento. And I know that that's what really sparked my interest, because it was the first time I met people outside of Sacramento who were Christians. Because, face it, everywhere I go, it's like Presbyterians are few and far between. I mean, I just spent a week at retreat at Zephyr Point, and I was the only Presbyterian there. In fact, our guest speaker trained as a Presbyterian, but he's now serving at the Wesley Methodist Church. So I even went up to say, how did they poach you? I think we want to...
Well, Christine, I want to ask you next, over the many years you have been active at Parkview, there were many organizations there. What are some of the organizations within Parkview that you participated in?
Well, when I was I think probably in my late teens and college years, I was asked to be a Sunday school teacher. And that was a big challenge for me because I didn't feel I was schooled enough. But, thankfully they had nice lesson plans. I could follow that. Well, in addition to that, I was baptized, and I don't remember when, but I think it was during that time of the evangelical movements. I would say probably in my late teens, I was baptized. So at some point, I was asked to become a session member. And that was during Reverend Hay Takarabe's time. And I know I served 2 terms at that time. And then, let's see, I'm checking my sheet here. And then during Art Van Beek's time, I again, was asked to serve on the session. And that was really my decision because I wanted to find someplace that I could really serve the church. Because in terms of overall activity, I think during the Takarabe era, we were very involved with the Mariners organization. And that was the first time that the church began to really segregate beyond the women's group and the men's group, but a couples group. And we had a very viable group at that time. And so it was really good. I mean, we were sharing child rearing as well as recipes and so forth. So it was a really wonderful group for us. And then during Art Van Beek's time, he asked, I volunteered to become a session member. And that has evolved into being on for 3 sessions. So that was 9 years. And I don't recall at what point, but it was during Art's time, and maybe around 2014 that I became clerk of session. And the reason why normally after 6 years, you have to have a break. You cannot go for another term. But they made an exception for me because we found out that through Pamela Anderson, she was a really book of order person, that in order to be a clerk of session, you had to be a session member. And we never knew that. We never operated like that. So that meant they had to create a position for me just so I could become a session member. And so my term will come to an end this year. So it's been a while. But the other things that I was involved with is a book club. It was very viable when Tada and Jane Sato were involved. We had a very good group at that time. And then the exploration groups and, all the things that Art did. I mean, he was I really saw him as a very strategic, forward-thinking pastor. And it was a really good, exciting time.
Can you tell us about your involvement in leadership with the Legacy Committee, which is another...
Right. Well, that was just always part of my... I'm sort of the family historian for my family, so that part has always been of interest. And I started talking it up with Hot Jessimer and Naley and Wade. I said, the new people, they don't know about all that Parkview was involved in. We've got to do something. So they were interested in helping to do this. So that's when I approached Session and said, we would like, there's a group of us who would like to start a legacy project. We don't know how it's going to turn out or what it's going to include, but we feel that we got to start collecting this stuff while we still have some of our elders. And so there's no budget, but we did receive a very generous donation. So that's sort of been my passion right now, is that, I guess part of it has to do with my own age. How critical, we have to think about, leaving something for the future. Because, frankly, I think Parkview has a fantastic legacy that many people don't know about. And of course, I have to credit just what's going on at ACC and the work that Gloria Imagida did in terms of bringing that to something that needed to be done. So, I think it's generating, there's a lot of movement on trying to, recapture and to put down in some form records of what happened in our past.
I want to ask you, Christine, I understand your passion around being someone who wants to capture our history, but not everybody feels that way. What do you think gives you that passion to pursue our history?
Well, partly is, I think, just the fact that I want people to be able to go back and understand and sort of appreciate all the things Parkview has done. I mean, we have in our committee Nancy Aratafong. she did a little research on one of our very first members, Gichi Aoki. It's amazing what she's found and the connection of that family. I mean, it's fantastic. And it was published in the Chapel Chimes. And people have been, that's the spark plug we've been needing, because we've been reaching out, but, the response has been pretty nil. So it's been really part of us. Who else can we talk to? What can we do? And thank you. These interviews are going to be something that we're going to be able to add to our treasure troves. Mm-hmm. But we have some things in mind that we want to do when we have the anniversary. That if people are coming, we want to be able to engage them in helping us identify photographs. And then we've been reaching out to families of older members and trying to get information from them. But you know what? Sadly, so much of that has already been, gone. And that's my fear too, because, I have so much stuff, but who knows, when we pass, for our kids. So, while we can, I think we all need to sort of leave something for our future. Yeah.
Well, I think you're inspiring various people at Parkview.
Good, I hope so.
Passion, so we surely thank you for that. Well, Christine, we've talked about a lot of the activities you've engaged in, the organizations within Parkview. Can you tell us about some memories that stand out in your mind?
Well, I think probably the thing that really stands out in mind, not only for Parkview, for my own life, is the 1970 Civil Rights Movement. I think Hei Takarabe was the perfect person for our church. He was also not only, really connected with our own church community, but he really had a perspective of the broader community and bringing them in. And I know that it was during this time that Parkview really opened its doors for people to either gather or to have a place to begin. The Asian Pacific Community Counseling had one of their first meetings there. And I guess the one that is closest to my heart is Jankepo Gakko. I mean, Hei and Gloria were very instrumental in that. Stan and I were involved, many others as well. Effie, Laura Tanaka, Gloria Imagire, Satsuki Ina, and a number of people. And so after we first had a gathering at the ACC office to see who in the community would like to join us, we had people who wanted to sign up that night. And so in 1976, we first started Jankepo Gakko at Parkview. And we stayed there for 2 years and outgrew the facility. And thankfully, SJ has welcomed us. And so I think it's been 46 years since we started. That's just one example of what Parkview has done. I mean, their little corner, the Concha house, that used to be called the Yellow House. It's because it was painted yellow. Yeah. During that same time, that was used as an ESL classroom. And we had community students, Randy Shiroi, Lily, Yi Shiroi. They were one, Satsuki Ina. They used to come and tutor kids. There were so many young people. I mean, literally, Parkview was a hub of activity. And, thankfully, how many people know that? That we have this legacy. And that's just two that I could recall. Mei Lee has a lot of information, too, about that. But, that's when, to me, it was really through the opening the doors, so to speak, that, Hei and Gloria really were very instrumental. And it's continued today. I think, we continue to reach beyond our own church to the broader community. I'm thinking now of we're going to become partners with the Southside Interfaith Partnership, which is a food closet. And a number of our members serve there.
Okay.
Oh, and then let me go on then. I know it's the next question. So who are the people that have made an impact on my life? When I first started coming, I remember Kiyoshi Fujiwara's father. he, like Kiyoshi, would sit in the same spot Sunday after Sunday. And, and these were the pioneers of our church. And, Kiyoshi, we've had my husband Stan has had a really good relationship with Kiyoshi because under Art's direction, he wanted to add Japanese influence in architecture. So the fence project and the windows, and George Matsuoka, they decided, they're going to help. And so Stan was helpful in terms of helping to design and making up the modular fences that went up. And so, all of those things, it's just amazing, the things that, Parkview has done. So, of course, Hei Takarabe has made a big impact because not only were they our ministers, but they were also personal friends of mine. And then I think of Art. I really admired him for his strategic planning. And Tada and Jane Sato, I thought, what a wonderful couple. They were so generous, and their leadership in the book club, I really missed them. And, the other ones, when I look at the leaders, especially strong women, Hanamori and Toshi Tambar really come to mind. They were there, they really sort of ran the show, but it was okay because they gave structure and form to so many things. But we all learn. But there's so many, other people I could probably mention, and I'm not going to do that all because I'm going to be worried that I forgot someone. But those are just off the top of my head, people who I've looked up to and really have been meaningful in terms of Parkview. And so, continuing my conversation about my involvement with the church and its activities, following going to the regional meetings, I heard about the Young People's Christian Conference at Zephyr Point at Lake Tahoe. And by then I was in my college years, and I would say it was 1959 to 1961 is when I attended. At that time, this is a group that Joyce Kusachi Umeda was a part of. I mean, there were a lot of people who were involved. I could name a number of people from SJ as well. Amy Kawahara and Tairo Nakashima and just so many people. But it was a week-long experience, and really it was such a wonderful thing for me who, pretty much cloistered in Sacramento. In fact, I made a relationship that I was able to reestablish some almost 15 years ago. People that I met there started coming back to the revised fellowship at Zephyr Point. And so I've been going to continuously for about 15 years now, and just came back this last week of July. So it's had some really wonderful resonating things for me in my life.
Yes. Christine, I want to ask you, when you started to go to these Christian activities with young Christian people, by that time, were you quite versed in Christianity?
Not so much. I was really, I'm not as schooled in the religiosity, so to speak. I should be going to Bible study, but I have not. I don't know it as well. So I'm just I still, at my age, I still feel like I'm pretty novice. But I guess I like the fellowship of, that's why I love Parkview. It was a choice that I made to come. And even though, I've had ups and downs in my involvement in Parkview, it's my place. And I really identify with it. In addition to my Rose and Lillian, my sister Grace, who did not participate in the church activity, but she was married at our church. And then my brother Roy and Yoko, they were also married at our church. And, he continued to, most recently, help with the parking and things like that. So we have a history within our family at Parkview. So, to me, Parkview is, and my kids to some extent feel that connection too. Greg now goes to another church, but my daughter, a good example is at one point, their son wanted to participate in a basket program at the Buddhist church, and that was not going to be allowed. And I thought, oh my goodness. So even though, they attended Sunday school for some time, but not a super long time, they still feel, I think they still identify that as, at least my home church, and to some extent theirs.
Yeah. So Parkview has kind of become a family
absolutely.
institution as well as a spiritual. We talk about Christianity, but a lot of it is just spiritual awareness and searching. So that you've given to your family and
it's amazing.
Friends.
Yeah, just by association. Very much. So.
Well, Christine, we've talked about a lot of the activities you've engaged in, the organizations within Parkview. Can you tell us about some memories that stand out in your mind?
Well, I think probably the thing that really stands out in mind, not only for Parkview, for my own life, is the 1970 Civil Rights Movement. I think Hei Takarabe was the perfect person for our church. He was also not only, really connected with our own church community, but he really had a perspective of the broader community and bringing them in. And I know that it was during this time that Parkview really opened its doors for people to either gather or to have a place to begin. The Asian Pacific Community Counseling had one of their first meetings there. And I guess the one that is closest to my heart is Jankepo Gakko. I mean, Hei and Gloria were very instrumental in that. Stan and I were involved, many others as well. Effie, Laura Tanaka, Gloria Imagire, Satsuki Ina, and a number of people. And so after we first had a gathering at the ACC office to see who in the community would like to join us, we had people who wanted to sign up that night. And so in 1976, we first started Jankepo Gakko at Parkview. And we stayed there for 2 years and outgrew the facility. And thankfully, SJ has welcomed us. And so I think it's been 46 years since we started. That's just one example of what Parkview has done. I mean, their little corner, the Concha house, that used to be called the Yellow House. It's because it was painted yellow. Yeah. During that same time, that was used as an ESL classroom. And we had community students, Randy Shiroi, Lily, Yi Shiroi. They were one, Satsuki Ina. They used to come and tutor kids. There were so many young people. I mean, literally, Parkview was a hub of activity. And, thankfully, how many people know that? That we have this legacy. And that's just two that I could recall. Mei Lee has a lot of information, too, about that. But, that's when, to me, it was really through the opening the doors, so to speak, that, Hei and Gloria really were very instrumental. And it's continued today. I think, we continue to reach beyond our own church to the broader community. I'm thinking now of we're going to become partners with the Southside Interfaith Partnership, which is a food closet. And a number of our members serve there.
Okay.
Oh, and then let me go on then. I know it's the next question. So who are the people that have made an impact on my life? When I first started coming, I remember Kiyoshi Fujiwara's father. He, like Kiyoshi, would sit in the same spot Sunday after Sunday. And, these were the pioneers of our church. And, Kiyoshi, we've had my husband Stan has had a really good relationship with Kiyoshi because under Art's direction, he wanted to add Japanese influence in architecture. Mm-hmm. So the fence project and the windows, and George Matsuoka, they decided, they're going to help. And so Stan was helpful in terms of helping to design and making up the modular fences that went up. And so, all of those things, it's just amazing, the things that, Parkview has done. So, of course, Hei Takarabe has made a big impact because not only were they our ministers, but they were also personal friends of mine. And then I think of Art. I really admired him for his strategic planning. And Tada and Jane Sato. I thought, what a wonderful couple. They were so generous, and their leadership in the book club. I really missed them. And, the other ones, when I look at the leaders, especially strong women, Hanamori and Toshi Tambar really come to mind. They were there, they really sort of ran the show, but it was okay because they gave structure and form to so many things. But we all learn. But there's so many, other people I could probably mention, and I'm not going to do that all because I'm going to be worried that I forgot someone, but those are just off the top of my head, people who I've looked up to and really have been meaningful in terms of, Parkview. And my own brother-in-law, Robert Kashiwagi, he's also sat in the same place, but you could bless his heart. He would be one that would bring up and really make us think about some of the things that we do. And he was outspoken, and we needed that. So then we have others who are just quietly but supporting the church. But, we have so many people that have been engaged in our church. And now with our sort of going towards multiculturalism and so forth, we have a very viable church. And I'm happy to be part of it.
Well, I'm fortunate to have known or at least met every one of those people that you mentioned. And as you said, some of them were very outspoken and verbal, and others had a very quiet nature about them, but you knew that they were leaders.
Right.
And they were passionate.
Ruby Matsuhara. Oh, you can't forget Ruby. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're fortunate to have had all of those friends, and some of them were your mentors too.
Absolutely. Our church, the other person that really brings back my memory is Toyoko Misobe Seno. I remember during the course when we were without a minister, she literally led worship Sunday after Sunday. And when she married Alvin Seno, we were going, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? But, it's amazing. People step up. They fill a void that needs to be done. But, I remember her so clearly doing that Sunday. I couldn't have done that, but we had these leaders that, Joyce Umeda. Oh my gosh, she had done so much for our church. So I can go on. So I'm going to stop there.
Well, yeah, you mentioned Toyoko Seno. Of course, I knew her from
because she went to Methodist church.
But absolutely, she was quite the woman. And
oh my gosh,
such a warm-hearted person.
But what was nice? Her son and John and Hannah came to worship at Parkview and brought their boys. So, it's nice. It's just sort of like a circle.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We all need to remember that it is a circle.
And sharing. Hey, thank you for you and Haruko.
It's our pleasure. Well, Christine, we sure talked about some of the memories from the past, and wonderful memories at that. I want to ask you now, going forward, Parkview is a very different congregation than the ones that you've experienced. What are your hopes for the future for Parkview?
Well, for me, I'd like to see, we are a very small church, and I frankly like that. People always say grow the church. I would like to see that, but I'd like to see it, at slow pace. It's not like, we need to just grow our community, and that may not be a reality. But I'd like to see it continuing its path that, we've been that way, so very slow growing. But I also like the real sense of inclusion. I'm so proud that Parkview has been rightly in the forefront of the civil rights and social justice issues. And continuing with its spirituality. And Pastor Sarah, I think the PNC did a fantastic job on selecting her and bringing her to us. And not only is she really good in spirituality, she has a very strong sense of social justice. And, my golly, she remembers, and I'm just amazed at how she remembers to add little things that have to even do with our own Japanese heritage and our culture. So I'm very hopeful. In fact, we chose for our 110th anniversary Hope, because we feel that, that's really something that we can look forward to. And so, that's my hope for Parkview, that we will continue, that we don't have to be in a rush to do it, but that we are doing slowly. And, that's all I can say.
Over the last couple of years, we've said farewell to many of our Nisei friends at Parkview, and we think about them, as you've mentioned, but we see some younger couples coming, and do you think that there will be growth in the foreseeable future for Parkview?
I think so, and it's been, I've not been as good in terms of proselyting, maybe. But oh my goodness, when I hear how the simple fact that Will and Judy Yee attended the Time of Remembrance program, and Titus befriended them or whatever, but Titus invited them to church. That I still recall the day I went to church and I saw May Lee there. I was overwhelmed. I thought, how did we attract May? How invited her to come to church? And the rights. Michael, I love the way he can read the scripture, because he's one that I could sort of follow and understand. Everyone else speaks so fast because they're nationals, right? But, we have and then Lois and Betsy, I happened to meet them before they adopted their children. So I've been familiar. But when I saw them come to church, I was just overwhelmed. And they're still coming. So actually, Parkview is a home for them. And, I don't know what really brought them to our church. Maybe they wanted to find a church that their children could feel comfortable in. Hallelujah for that, But we have such a nice little diverse group. In fact, as part of the clerk session, we have to do a statistical analysis, and it tells us every year we have to say what ethnicity. With Chris, the office manager, and I, we sit there and sometimes we have to guess. But, we've been pretty good. So no, we're not 100% Japanese American. We have a significant number of Caucasian, Chinese, what is that? Indonesian?
Indonesian?
Yeah, right. So it's fantastic. So, we've been very fortunate.
Yeah, I think it just speaks to the ability of Parkview, and when we say Parkview, we're talking about the people there, to identify the changing society and move with it and not be resistant to change, which speaks a lot about the people there.
Well, and then the other thing is, I mentioned to you that Satsuki Ina, she was involved with the Yellow House and the ESL touring. She's a good friend of mine. And so one time we were talking about religion, and she says, well, you know what? If I were not born a Buddhist, I would come to Parkview. And, that's a fantastic statement. She realized how welcoming our community is. And I think that's say they feel comfortable. And I think we continue to do that.
Yeah, so, we talked a little bit about Christianity and spirituality, but I think when you boil it down as to why people continue to attend Parkview, me for one, just love the people there. Right,
and you have to feel comfortable.
Yes.
Because it's an effort. I will say that I have a little concern. COVID really did a number on everyone, not just our church. But, we are slowly coming back. But it's very easy to stay home and do it on Zoom. But I was floored recently. I went to an event at the Foreign Buddhist Church. They still do not. And they have such a tight protocol. They sit 6 feet apart, and they only meet one Sunday a month. Yeah, and they're still not totally open yet. So in a way, Parkview we're leap years ahead.
Been very cautious during
They're
this
very
time
cautious,
of,
yes.
COVID, but I think
But we're doing pretty well.
pretty well.
Yeah.
The attendance is very good. And Zoom brings in the people who
Right.
can no longer come to
Right.
church. But yes, thank you for sharing with us today, Christine, about your memories of you first coming to Parkview, and then all of the activities between the time you started and now, and being such a part of the life of Parkview yourself with your family. And I'm glad you mentioned your husband Stan, because he does a lot in the background, so to speak. And I know that he just constructed a nice pulpit addition at church. And with his,
Actually, Jonathan, your little suggestion of maybe it's adjustable, I took it back and he did it.
Well, he's one of the few guys I know who can do it. So, let's always give thanks to Stan and his support for
Well, he was actually born in a Methodist family.
Oh, I know.
But he's not been a practicing one, but at least he likes to do things for the church. And, when we were doing Bazaar, he was there. So all of those things. So, he may not come and worship, but he's there for, other services for it.
Absolutely.
And it really benefits us.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing.
No problem. Thank you for
today,
helping us.
Well, my pleasure.